Welcome back, everyone, to episode 52. But more importantly, this is the 1 year anniversary of the Level Flight podcast. I'm here with Connor and Elliot, as usual. I'll start with you, Connor. How you doing?
Great. 1 year of the Level Flight podcast. We just had the 50th episode, like 2 episodes ago. And yeah, the hits just keep on coming. 1 year now. We said all of this stuff on episode 50, but again, a thank you to everyone who listens to this podcast, makes it possible. And let's go for year 2.
Yeah, year 2 should be fun. But yeah, thanks everybody. And the boys and I were talking about over the summer. We kind of were hoping that 50 in 1 year I think we kind of did some math. There was a chance that 50 and 1 year were going to hit at the same time, but I think we had to do some extra episodes during the summer. So it ended up being that, obviously, as you can hear, we're 2 off, but still pretty cool that within 2 weeks we hit 50 episodes and get to a year. So yeah, thanks everybody. And this year too is, I'd like to say things are different, but I don't know. Brian already teased it on Twitter. It's kind of, we're off on the same sort of footing here that we were in year 1.
Right. Yes.
No, things have changed. Connor has a green screen now.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
It barely works. It barely works. And when I pick up, well, it works in OBS, I will say. For people who checked out my Winnipeg Sports Talk show, it worked great for that. But
yeah,
when I hold up a can here, it's just completely. This can is Canada Life Center. Apparently.
He's drinking a can of.
Yeah, finish the sentence.
Of the life.
But yeah, it's
of the life.
It's oh god. All right, so for context
already. Anyway,
for context,
if
we usually
listening.
We usually record at 9 a.m. It's currently 4:30 p.m. Still on a Wednesday. Like nothing else is different except for the time of day. So we're gonna go off the rails because usually 9 a.m. like we're just having our coffee and we're like, all right, this is like starting our day. Now we're fully into the day, so expect some.
You might get more
chaos.
energy out of us today. So this is entirely new for us, and we also have a jam-packed show today. We had to do a full outline, and just it kept getting. We're timing ourselves so we don't go too far over, because if you let us, we'd probably go for close to 2.
Yep.
Oh, I'd say over that, probably close to 3.
Yeah. We can talk for too long.
Definitely.
Oh yeah. We have a tendency of talking a little bit, so it's good for us to keep ourselves in line. So we quite literally have like how long roughly we should expect to talk about topics this week.
I like to say it's part of the job doing the talking. So if we go for too long, part of the job.
Yeah. You kind of like need to talk to do a podcast, so it checks out.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. Let's get into the 3 games that we got to recap here.
Oh God.
Yeah.
3 games.
A win and a couple, extra time losses. Just briefly, we'll touch on their big win in Detroit against a strong Red Wings team, 4-1. It was just one of those games where very much kind of swinging back and forth momentum wise, but holding strong. Elliot, I'll start with you. What did you sort of pull out of this quickly?
Well, I think this and the game, I know we'll get to it with the Rangers, and that one was an overtime. Well, it was an overtime loss by that much. But I like how the Jets are playing well against good opponents. Like Detroit will probably be a playoff team this year, I would assume, at least based on their form. They will regress, but I still think that they are at least close. So that's a game that you need to win if you want to be a playoff team, right? The Rangers game, that's another team that's going to be in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. They should be in and around the conversation, right? So in a game where they looked good, then didn't have any momentum, and then decided that they wanted to take the game by the reins and just steamroll their way ahead and get a victory was good. I think that game down in Michigan was good, and it's always good to see Kyle Connor for some reason. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because he's at home. He feels more comfortable. He just likes to score. So,
yeah, he likes to score in Detroit, that's for sure. And then the other hometown guy playing in that game, Connor Hellebuck, had his best game of the year, 35 saves of 36 shots. He was really, really good. And I thought the Jets were the better team, period, for the first 2 periods of the game. And then the third period was all Connor Hellebuck. think the shots were 15-4 at some point for Detroit. Obviously, there was a few power plays in there. But again, Connor Hellebuyck, this is why you pay him $8.5 million for the next 7 years. And he's finally kind of inching back to his form. And that was the first game he really looked like himself. And then Nikolai Ehlers, I tweeted out the day of that Nikolai Ehlers and Nino Niederreiter hadn't scored a goal yet this year. And then they both score in this game. So I'd like to personally take credit for those guys getting their first goals of the year. You are welcome.
I'll get Nikolai on the phone and I'll tell him that.
Yeah.
So that he can personally say thank you.
Yes, exactly. No, but in all seriousness, that second line, I think this was the first game that they really started to pick it up, and they carried it into Montreal. They carried it into the home game against New York. This was the first game I thought they really controlled play, looked very dangerous offensively. Ehlers got his first goal. Niederreiter followed it up with the Montreal game, got a goal there. There was a lot to like with this game. A long-winded answer, but basically there was a lot to like.
Well, and I mean, we'll use that just to transition right into the next one where, as you said, third line, specifically Niederreiter, fantastic game against Montreal. They brought all of the offense, essentially. So, yeah, you had, 2 goals from Lowry, including a penalty shot, which absolute just...
We all just shook our heads, by the way.
I had no clue.
If you're on podcast, yeah.
I had no clue that it was going to happen. And it was like, that felt like one of the weirdest penalty shots in terms of the sense of he didn't have a breakaway until he was in the slot.
Yeah.
And it was just, all right, well, we'll take it. But he converted another one early in the period there. And then Nito just on a heater now, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it was just a really, because you also, I think that line each had, I think, 2 points. So you've, Appleton looks at home on that third line. It doesn't work on the top line, but put him in the bottom 6, it works. That said, there was also a lot of questions about this game. We're going to start with the topic that I tweeted out about, if you saw it. And let's talk about, Cole Perfetti, and more specifically, his usage. And also how it recently we, heard on the 32 Thoughts podcast from Elliot Friedman that there has been some concern from his agent and his management group about his ice time, his limitations. We saw again, or we did not see him in overtime once in the Montreal game. We've had this conversation before, Connor. Do you think that it's just going to keep going like this? I know we saw a little bit of him in the New York game, but I think that was also because it was 4-on-4 for a bit.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to change anytime soon. And in the Detroit game, it was Morgan Barron who got the switch up for Cole Perfetti when they were protecting the lead. Then the Montreal game comes and Perfetti isn't benched down the stretch, I don't think, but he doesn't play overtime. Did Perfetti play the rest of the third?
I thought he missed a couple minutes at the end of the third in the Montreal game, but don't quote me on that. They weren't really protecting
a lead. It was tied, I think, going down to the end of the game. The Jets even had a power
I was
play.
At work, so I didn't get a chance to really see the end. I saw overtime, but I didn't see the last 5 minutes or so.
Right.
Either way.
Perfetti and not being in overtime is really interesting to me. I think I don't know if I have this stat 100% correct, but I believe he's tied for the league lead in the NHL with 5 primary assists at even strength. I could be wrong on no. Yeah. Okay. So a guy like that, he has some speed issues that he's got to work through. I think he looks bigger, faster, stronger this year, even if it's a little bit of progression. I think it is progression. And overtime, you want players that see the ice well, have good hockey IQ, and that is Cole Perfetti. I don't think it'll change anytime soon, but I'll say that I'd be shocked if by the end of the year, Cole Perfetti isn't at least getting a few overtime shifts. Not like a regular. He's not going to be next to Mark Scheifele in overtime or Kyle Connor, but I think he's a part. I think at some point in the year, he'll be a part of that next line out with Nikolai Ehlers, with they're still playing Lowry and Appleton in overtime, which we kind of voiced our displeasure with last year. But I think at some point this year, you'll see Cole Perfetti in overtime. I just don't think it'll be in the first 2 months of the year.
So you mentioned those 2 big minute eaters in Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor. They played the last minute 22 of that overtime period, or that was before it ended with a Rangers goal. With the situation with Cole Perfetti, I'm at this weird impasse where I just don't understand why. Like, he goes out there, Brian, as you mentioned, on 4-on-4. He was out there, I think he got 2 shifts. The first shift, I don't think he did too much, but the second shift, he forechecked really hard. It forced a turnover on the wall, and the Jets got an opportunity out of it. And I think I'm not joking when I say I'm pretty sure he forechecked, forced the turnover, and I'm pretty sure he got a call from the bench to come back. Like, he literally went out there, forechecked, and went back to the bench. Like, why? Why? Like, Connor, you mentioned about Lowry and Appleton getting shifts in overtime. I don't believe they got shifts. They may have gotten one short one in overtime against the Rangers, but I know for sure Iafallo was out there quite a bit. And again, I'm a huge fan of his. I love his two-way game, but that's not what overtime is about. Like, you need to have some guys with some defensive like ability, but you don't need to have like your shutdown guys out there. Someone like Iafallo get 1 or 2 shifts, that's fine. But Perfetti's not a bad defender. Like I just talked about, I know Perfetti's still learning. Like he's more of an offensive player, excuse me, but he's still better than someone like Kyle Connor. I'm going on a little bit of a rant here. I'm going a little bit off track, but this is to prove my point. So Perfetti does that in overtime where he forces a turnover and gives the Jets an opportunity to score. Jets are up. I believe it was either 3-1 or 3-2. It was 3-2 with about 15 minutes left in the third period. This is very specific, but this is the biggest thing, and we'll probably transition to overall thoughts about the game in a minute. This was the biggest thing that I got from that game about how, I'm going to say bad, but either how bad Kyle Connor is as a defender or just how unaware he is. So he's, first off, one of the Rangers defensemen had the puck on their own blue line. Kyle Connor standing at center ice, completely flat-footed, like not skating, not even floating, nothing. They start moving the puck up the ice. He's kind of skating backwards, kind of looking around. He does this weird pirouette. Like, I'm not joking when I say he spun around I don't know why. So he's skating backwards, and like you see him look towards the wall behind him. And you'd think that he knew that there was a player there. Well, the play starts shifting towards the end boards. Some of the Rangers players comes like flying in off the wing, comes this way. Kyle Connor just completely just sprints towards him, the puck carrier, who already had somebody like on him, and left somebody wide open in the slot for a one-timer, and the Rangers almost scored off of it. Right? So you put that guy out there who either didn't know what he was doing when they're in their own zone, or just hates playing defense, so he just decides to attack the puck. You put that guy out there with Mark Scheifele, who is, yes, looked like a better defender, but his metrics still aren't great. And Neil Pionk was out there as well for when the Rangers scored. Like, you've got 3 offensive players out there at once. And I get it. We just talked about having your offensive players out there for overtime. But when they've been out there for a minute 22 and you get scored on, there is nothing, no excuse that you can have when they had already had like 4 or 5 shifts already in that overtime period. I know that may sound like a lot, but they had already been out there for a long time, got a quick rest, and then we're out there again for another minute 22. Like, Josh Morrissey's not even on the ice. Like, I think I maybe saw him 3 times in overtime. So I don't know what the deployment is. And Scott Arniel even got questioned about it by the media after the Rangers game about what happened in Detroit. And he even was like, yeah, I talked to Cole. We had to play him more. And then I wanted to play him more in Montreal. And for some reason, I just didn't. So I thought I tried to do a better job of that tonight. Well, you played him in the third period. Congrats. But it's because the game was tied. And then you play him twice in overtime and he makes a great play and you don't reward him with more ice time. You reward him to come to the bench for either Kyle Connor or Mark Scheifele. I don't get it. And this is with the associate coach. This isn't even with the head coach. So I don't even know where we'd be if Rick Bowness was coaching. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a real combo of the last, few games here where we've actually had to see what happens when they get out of regulation, and it feels like a repeat of last year. And just before we move on to the bigger thoughts about that New York game, because there's a fairly large storyline that we haven't yet mentioned. But I think that we saw it more in the Rangers game, but the Jets power play in the Montreal game, not great. But that's a really good transition there because more questions about it after. But probably the biggest storyline, though, from that Rangers game, aside from the fact that they lost, was the fact that Blake Wheeler made his return, got a massive ovation, and then didn't play a whole lot.
As he should.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he should get the standing O from the
Yeah.
entire crowd, the tribute video. For those watching at home, like us, or watching on Sportsnet, didn't get to see it because they went to commercial break. So sucks to suck, I guess. But whatever.
Gotta play more of those betting ads.
Exactly. And we'll get into that later in the episode when we talk about the NHL. But this Blake Wheeler, I mean, the tribute video was great. You could see he was like visibly fighting back tears on the bench. His whole family was in the suite. It was just a really nice moment. And he deserves that because he's been one of the most important players in the Jets history. He is the captain, or he was the captain for how many years here. And yeah, if anyone deserves a tribute video, a standing ovation, it's him. And then I'm sure it'll be the first number retired in Jets 2.0 history as well. I would not be shocked to see 2-6 go up in the rafters because of what he's done for this organization. So it was
on
nice
and
to
off
see.
the ice.
On and off the ice, yes. Great point.
That I think that's the biggest thing. Like, you can have players that do great things on the ice, but if they also do some really good things in the community, and people have, as soon as he left, lots of people came out with many, many stories about the things that he's done. I think that alone should deserve the standing O, not only just for being, as we've talked about on the show, one of the best players in the league in his prime.
Yeah, absolutely. And, obviously that happened, but yeah, in the game, lots of repeats from what we've seen. Biggest thing is the fact that the power play is just god awful. Like it's honestly at this point, I wish they could decline the penalties because they play better at 5-on-5. Because at this point, it's like every team knows exactly what they're going to do. And I think it's not wrong because they're a very predictable unit. Like they run everything through the top of the umbrella, and it's way easier to defend than when you're going, north to south rather than east to west, because you can kind of prep for it. But if you have to go up and down towards the net, it's a lot harder. You can lose your angles a lot easier. And every other team in the league, for the most part, has figured that out. The Jets have had the same issue now for probably over a calendar year. And yeah, like it's an issue, like a total issue. And the thing is, they changed personnel. You could put anyone on there at this point. I don't think you're getting any better. I think it's a systems issue. I think it's where guys are actually positioned. Like Mark Scheifele should not be along the half wall. He just shouldn't. He should probably be in the bumper position in the slot. And you should probably have someone who can actually feed a pass through along the half wall. Scheifele's not doing anything from that side anymore. Like there was that point there where we tried to use him as the line A replacement on the power play, and you were having, essentially Wheeler just feed him. You already have a shooter on the other side of the ice. Like you should have someone who's actually able to feed it through. Can you imagine, like, for example, Cole Perfetti feeding a pass through to Kyle Connor? Because at this point, Connor, if he's actually going to shoot, has to take a pass that's probably not where he wants it to be, take a minute, and then the shot gets blocked or he misses the net. And it's the whole thing is Kyle Connor is the shooter on that unit.
Yep.
Really the only one who you can consistently be like, he's probably going to do it. Scheifele probably tries to shoot too much. But the entire unit itself, I don't think it matters who's on it. It's where they're playing and how they're playing. That's the issue. Yeah.
And I mentioned this a couple days ago to someone, I forget who I was talking to, but the opening game against Calgary they went 0 for 4 or something, but it was like a good 0 for 4. It was like they were generating. Markstrom made some incredible saves, and it was like, all right, They went 0 for 4, but you can live with it because it wasn't a momentum killer, right? This power play, how it's been, like they were 1 for 15 in their last 4 games coming into this game against the Rangers, and then they went 0 for 3, including a power play with 19 seconds left in the game or whatever time it was left.
Overtime,
like the game was,
they had a power play.
Yeah, and it was it's the Jets power play is at their worst when they're predictable, like you said, Brian.
Yep.
Everything's going through Kyle Connor right now. The only chance that they're generating is the Kyle Connor one-timer. Like Alex Iafallo 4 or 5 games ago had that nice goal where it went down low to Scheifele, up to Iafallo, right over the glove of it was Logan Thompson, or I guess the blocker because he's the other hand. But that's a play that we just haven't seen even attempted the last 4 games. It's Morrissey to Connor, it's Scheifele to Connor. Everything is going to Kyle Connor, and everyone knows it. And they aren't even high danger chances. Like if you give Kyle Connor that one-timer and everyone knows it, that's not a high danger chance. And you're just funneling everything to that flank, and it's not working. I think it's more of a systems thing as well, Brian. I don't know what exactly needs to change. They put Cole Perfetti on that top power play. I think they need people in front of the net. Another thing is it becomes predictable, it becomes stale, and then there's that Kyle Connor one-timer from the flank and nobody's around. Sometimes there's a rebound, there's just no one. Easy clear for the defense. It's an unscreened shot. It's really hard to beat modern goaltenders with an unscreened shot. It's just, I think they put Iafallo there to be that net front guy, and I don't think he's really been there enough. He's kind of in like the bumper. And yeah, I would like to see Scheifele in the bumper, Perfetti down low being his distributor, and then Iafallo in front of the net. Or Perfetti on the flank, I mean, to be that elite passer that he is going to Connor. But there's so many things that are going wrong, and it's a momentum killer at this point. Yep. Every time you get the power play, if you're playing well 5-on-5, which I do want to touch on that, I'll let you guys wrap up with the power play, but 5-on-5, I thought the Jets looked great. You get a power play, you generate nothing, that kills your momentum. You're now back to square one. The Rangers are feeling good. They got a great kill, and now they've got the momentum, right? I wonder what your thoughts are on the power play, Elliot, because I'm kind of at a loss for words, but right now it's predictable, it's stale, and it's a momentum killer.
So when it comes to the deployment, obviously Perfetti should be on that unit. Like if he's going to play second line center, I get you want to have Mark Scheifele there, but then put him at the bumper. Where did that go? Like Mark Scheifele at the bumper, Connor and I talked about it last season when he got put back at the bumper, is like the best version of Mark Scheifele. Like he is just undeniably good from there. And I just don't get why they don't. Rick Bowness loves to do stuff that works and then never go back to it. But that's besides the point. That's a different issue. My other thing that I have to say about it is some of the, like, I know, Brian, you mentioned shots from Kyle Connor, either it's the passing. It also has to do with, like, I get he's getting the pass, but there are also times where he pauses, waits, and thinks about where he wants to shoot. And then he shoots right at the goalie. Like, there are times where, like, sometimes you can tell guys are trying to aim somewhere else and where they picked up the puck on their shot, or, like, kind of where they aim isn't where the puck went. Especially in that New York game, I was watching, I believe it was the overtime 4-on-3 power play. And they gave him 2 one-timers. The one-timer, and I get Shesterkin's one of the best goaltenders in the world, up for a Vezina, blah, blah, blah. But you can't give that good of a goalie coming across the crease with, I get, no screen, but there was also no defenders in front of Kyle Connor when he received the pass. And he shot it right at Shesterkin. And I sat there and looked at the TV and went, and I get this sounds like I'm a couch coach, but why doesn't he shoot across the goaltender? Shoot where the goalie came from. Why are we shooting it where he's going? And he did that multiple times, and he's done that multiple times on the power play. He shoots the puck right where the goalie is going to be. I get he has a hard shot, and I get that he has an accurate shot, and he's trying to beat the goalie to where, like, he's trying to beat him before he can get there. But why? Let's play smarter here. And I know this sounds like crazy because I'm not an NHL player and when I played hockey, I was a defensive defenseman. I had a good stick. I didn't shoot very much. Like I was literally Dylan DeMello. So whenever I scored, it was like the craziest thing ever. Either way, my point being is that if I were Kyle Connor, I would be trying to shoot from where the goaltender came from, not where he's going to be to try to beat him that way. But that's a completely different thing. I'm sure now they'll go and play Vegas on the night or the day you're hearing this, and he'll score 2 power play goals, and no one will say anything about the power play for another couple weeks. But the other thing too is Alex Iafallo. Connor, you are absolutely correct. He was the net front guy for much of this beginning of the season, and then he's just stopped standing in front of the net. Like, that would be where, I know this sounds really stupid and both of you may chastise me for it, but if it takes for them to send out Adam Lowry on the power play just for him to stand in front of the net and bang something in front, I don't care, because
Didn't
I would
do that last year.
They did.
Yes, and he scored a couple times.
Year, yeah.
He scored a couple times because he's 6'5". He stood in front of the net. He did his job. As long as he's not dancing around trying to deke somebody out, take one-timers, if he's standing in front of the net and he just buries a rebound every once in a while, I'm not going to say anything. Because right now, the Jets power play isn't working as is. Like, shoot, put Rasmus Kupari in then to be the big net front guy who has at least a little bit more skill than Adam Lowry. Has a little bit more skill, has a little bit more speed. I'm not even going to talk about Nikolai Ehlers because that's not even what this discussion's about. But they need somebody to stand in front of the net and not be afraid to potentially take a puck to the body from Kyle Connor or somebody else's one-timer, because nobody is screening the goaltender. And that's, if I were a player that played that way, I think it would be a prime opportunity and I would jump all over it or suggest it, because like we just said, Adam Lowry did it a couple times last season. I think all 3 of us said that's a silly idea, and then he buried a couple rebounds. But that's what he does, right? So at least that's what he does offensively. But I just think that having some sort of net foot presence, like you said, Connor, I think that solves something. Moving Scheifele back to the bumper, and I guess Ehlers can go enjoy himself on the second unit and kind of run that unit. But I think having Cole Perfetti up on the first unit, this sounds ludicrous, and I might get blasted for it. Huh?
Ludicrous. Come on now.
Yeah, I didn't hear you, and then it clicked what you said. Like, this sounds silly, but if you're gonna have Kyle Connor be the shooter, then put Mark Scheifele on the second unit to be the other shooter then. And have him and Neil Pionk be the 2 up top instead of like having Morrissey and Kyle Connor. Then you have Scheifele and Pionk. And I know you're both looking at me like, what are you talking about?
I don't know. Yeah.
But Mark Scheifele, if their whole point is to get Kyle Connor to shoot the puck, then Mark Scheifele's taking away from that. And he's also not passing. Like, there are multiple times where he looks like he's going to try the Wheeler saucer pass across, and he just doesn't, for no reason. Like, he has the lane and he just doesn't take it. And then it's back to Morrissey. Morrissey goes over to Kyle Connor, and Kyle Connor goes, finally, I got the puck, and takes a shot, and it just doesn't generate much. But I think the biggest thing is what Brian said. It works the top of the umbrella. It doesn't go anywhere, and there's no high-low action, and there's nobody also standing in front of the net. It's a combination of everything not working. But I wish, Connor, you had that graphic that you posted on Twitter the other day showing where the Jets were in terms of power play. Like, we're down with the Sharks. Like, that's bad. If you're going to be a playoff team, you can't be any metric close to where the Sharks are, unless you're like a last wild card team in and you got in because of a tiebreaker.
Yeah. Just for context, that chart I posted was basically expected goals for and goals for on the power play, and it was like a chart. So basically the Jets were not generating goals and they're not scoring goals, and that basically says they shouldn't be scoring goals. They're not getting lucky, they're not getting unlucky. They're right on par with what they're generating. And last year
sounds hilarious.
Last year we talked lots about the power play, and it was so clearly the entry that was the issue. This year I'm kind of just lost. I don't really know what the issue is. It's just so many.
I think the entry is an issue too at times. Like there's still times where they have an issue and then they throw
I
the
think they're
second
setting
unit
up
out.
fine.
No, they
I
get
think
in
that
just fine.
at times I think it's bad but then that's when they've resorted to, okay, second unit, Nikolai Ehlers, just get us in, get a face off, and then we'll throw the first unit right back out there. Like he did that in one of the power plays. Like he came on, he flew into the zone, took a shot on net, Shesterkin covered it up, and then they sent the first unit right back out. Like they didn't even give the second unit a chance to try to generate anything. They just went, oh nope, thanks for getting us in, Nikolai. First unit back out. Let's just move it around the top of the blue line and take some shots. Like it's like you said, Connor. It's a momentum killer. It's just it's silly.
Yeah, and there's a big stretch here, and you're starting in Vegas, who is a top 2 team in the league right now. They might be struggling a little. I mean, by struggling, they're not playing like their undefeated selves that they have for the first month of the season, but it's going to be a massive challenge for them if they still can't get the power play going. And this is really a moment where we're going to be able to see very clearly if this coaching staff knows how to adjust, because I'll be honest, we've seen a lot of it and I'm not sure they can. So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to in terms of just questions being answered in this upcoming road trip. But that is obviously starting when you hear it tonight in Vegas. And yeah, there's a lot of storylines that we're absolutely going to be following up on. And I hope we're not just repeating ourselves next week again.
Yeah. I think if there's a bright side to all of this, it's that the Jets are a good team 5-on-5. I think they're a top 10 team in the league 5-on-5, and special teams is costing them games. Like I honestly think that if they had a league average power play and a league average penalty kill right now, their record would look a lot better. Yeah, they would win. They would.
I personally don't think the penalty kill's that bad. I don't think it's that bad, but it's not great. But I think it is around just below league average. I think it's the power play that's killing them. They can't finish chances.
Is looking better,
right? Yeah.
But
yeah.
Well, Jets aside, it's been a very busy week in the NHL, and we're going to get to that. But first, we're going to quickly throw it to our sponsors, DraftKings, and welcoming back Raycon for another month. And we'll be right back. It may be too early to start decorating for the holidays, but it's never too early to start your holiday shopping. Why not take care of it now before the crowds and packed calendars make shopping a total nightmare? Especially when you can get some of the best deals of the season well before Black Friday. You can shop Raycon products now and save up to 50% off because their early Black Friday sale is going on right now. You've heard us talk about Raycon's products before, several times on this podcast, and Raycon made a name for themselves in the audio space. Their products like the Everyday Earbuds, known for delivering high quality and thoughtful features, just a 32-hour battery life and a perfect in-ear fit for all-day wear and lasting comfort. And this past year, they expanded their entire business with the introduction of Raycon Home and Raycon Power Tech. Their 5-star reviewed Magic 180 cable allows you to charge iOS, micro USB, and USB Type-C devices 8 times faster with 100-watt power delivery. Their faucet filter ultra filters the water in your tap against chlorine and heavy metals. It's a must-have for ensuring the water you use to wash your face and brush your teeth is, actually clean. Raycon is known for delivering high quality and thoughtful features at half the price of other premium tech brands. It's no wonder their products have racked up tens of thousands of 5-star reviews. To get everyone the holiday shopping spirit a bit early, Raycon is currently offering 20% off everything on their site, with select products up to 50% off. So beat the crowds and save now. Trust me, you do not want to miss out on Raycon's early Black Friday sale. Hurry now to buyraycon.com/THPN to get 20 or 50% off site-wide. That's buyraycon.com/THPN to score up to 50% off Raycon products. Buyraycon.com/THPN. The NFL season is going strong, and DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking up new customers with an offer that's even stronger. Bet $5 on any game this week to score $200 instantly in bonus bets. And DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of a sweetener offer every game this October. Get in on the game day greatness. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets when you bet $5 on the NFL. That's code THPN only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, licensee partner Golden Nugget Lake Charles. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 160 hours after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. And welcome back into episode 52. Thanks again to DraftKings and Raycon for sponsoring this episode. So we're going to try something a little new here, mainly because almost out of obligation, there was so much that happened in the NHL this week and in the hockey world that we felt that we needed to sort of designate a segment to just storylines. And I'm going to start with this one. Little bit, it's tough because I'm sure at this point, if you haven't already, you've heard of the tragic accident that happened over in the UK with Adam Johnson, who unfortunately he took a skate to the neck in a freak accident and it passed away after. Obviously, that's insanely heartbreaking, and we've seen teams already doing some honoring for him, and what's interesting now is in an entirely different form of impact. We saw today in Jets practice where 4 players who don't normally wear it, they had a neck guard when they came out. So Nemestikov, Perfetti, Ehlers, and Kapari all came out wearing neck guards. And essentially, if it felt good in practice, they said they were going to wear it going forward. And this is something that you're probably going to see more of. I know the NHLPA was revisiting it. There's more talk about even like neck guards aside, like the rest of the equipment, cut guard, Kevlar, stuff like that, and figuring out what comes next. But no, I can't even imagine what, firstly, the family and the friends and the teammates and the fans of, the team and seeing what they did with Adam. And then also I'm just thinking about, Matt Petgrave, who was unfortunately the one whose skate it was. And there's been a lot of really stupid stuff online. Try and avoid it if you can. Don't engage with the people who are, causing problems. And, it's probably hard enough on Petgrave himself. So just think about him as well. And yeah, hard to really, spin that any other way other just heartbreaking. Yeah. So, yeah, that's sort of where we're going to start, but we're going to bring it back into some more NHL stuff here, where we're going to talk about a couple of retirements. There's one that you'll recognize a little bit more in terms of Jets related, but Jumbo Joe Thornton hung it up. Of course, filming shirtless as he does.
Yeah. That was just classic Joe Thornton.
Having too much fun.
Hat, peace and love is how he ends it. But he's like, yeah, you guys are probably wondering where I was. I'm like, I think everyone kind of thought you were pondering retirement, Joe. You're on a beach, dude.
Yeah. I don't know. The Jets might need some bottom 6 depth. Maybe he's considering coming back.
Is he considering coming back for a playoff run?
Yeah. You never know.
Well, I mean, I guess he did try that with the Leafs, but
yeah. I mean, honestly, though, I think in terms of sort of that all-time, looking at it, he might be in the conversation for the best player to never win a cup.
Yeah. One of the greatest passers of all time.
Truly.
100%.
Offensively, I don't think you can really say there was that good of a playmaker who didn't win a cup.
Yeah.
So happy trails, Jumbo.
Yeah.
I'm sure that he'll be involved more and more sort of down the line in hockey. It seems hard to believe that he won't be involved in some sort of further hockey operations as he moves forward.
Yeah, I do want to say
I would have a
Joe
good feeling
Thornton,
it's San Jose, but
yeah, true. I do want to say on Thornton that he was one of those players that as a young kid getting like integrated into being an NHL fan, he was at the peak of his powers and one of the players that made hockey fun to watch as a kid. So it kind of hurts when one of those players retires and you go, dang, like it feels like I was just watching him in the Stanley Cup finals going toe to toe with Sidney Crosby, It's He's so much fun to watch. One of the best playmakers ever, and happy retirement, Joe.
Yeah, happy retirement. He never scored 4 goals. And if you know, you know.
You know.
To another retirement, a bit closer to the hearts of Jets fans, Paul Stastny hung him up just the other day here. So he said in talking to Pierre LeBrun from The Athletic that going to Winnipeg was one of the greatest things he could have possibly done for his career. And it's nice to hear that. I remember very fondly of when he came in and no one expecting it, not even the panel on the Trade Center group. They were just shocked when it happened. And just seeing it work finally, having someone between Line and Ehlers that it was just clicking. And it was that in itself was a thing of beauty. And then having him come back and play a bit, and it was nice. But he a lot of games under his belt and several different places. So
yeah,
he's one of those players that overcame not being the biggest, fastest, strongest, like often being the smallest, slowest, weakest. I don't know what I guess the opposites for all
wow.
of those, but
all right. Jeez.
Well, it's true. Like Paul Stastny put together like an exceptional NHL career for a guy that's 5'10", not fast, really. Not really like
smart.
An exception. He's just
what a hockey player doesn't have to be 6'5" with a huge reach and like this big strong presence.
We're not doing this again.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, but it's nice to see players like that succeed, that kind of defy the odds. And he was really the key to unlocking Ehlers and Line. That team, the 2017-18 team, he was the X factor on that second line center. And then obviously he signs a contract with Vegas, which kind of sucked in the moment because it's kind of a what if. Paul Stastny hung around for that next year. Yeah.
And then he came back.
And then he came back.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's on the comment about Winnipeg. It's always nice to see players talk nicely about the city of Winnipeg after they have retired or moved on to a different team.
I just wish they would do it during their career. Like, why do they have to do it so many years removed from when they played here? Because then it just looks bad. Where it's like, oh, I liked Winnipeg back then, and it's like, oh, okay, so you don't like it now?
This is different
well,
because he said Winnipeg was like the best thing to happen for his career, and he also
waived his no trade to come here in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where he thought fondly and had a good experience. And it's just nice to hear.
Yeah. No, for sure. He had a really good career. I thought that, I wouldn't disagree with his comments because I really thought that after that, he was a sought after either trade deadline piece. It also rewarded him with a very nice contract from Vegas. So I thought that was good. I just, there's really nothing else to say. He was a very good middle six player that did his job and did it good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Out of the retirements now, suspension to announce this week. We had one of those like hits that it's just like, it was harder to hit the guy the way he did. It was Charlie McAvoy hitting Oliver Ekman-Larsson in front of the net in the Bruins-Panthers game. All head contact.
Sorry, just the way that you like, I have to stop you for a second. The way that you said that, where you were going to try to explain yourself about the hit, and then just said, it's Charlie McAvoy, was quite fun. It was just quite funny.
I get so frustrated when guys like make the conscious decision to like, I'm going to hit this guy when I really don't need to. And he caught him right in the jaw with his shoulder and rightfully was suspended 4 games for it. People have probably seen it already. If not, just, search up the McAvoy suspension, you'll find it. But not a whole lot to say about it aside from the fact that it's just a stupid play and it's something the NHL is trying to get rid of. And I actually think for the most part, in terms of NHL player safety this year, they've got a lot of their stuff right. It's early, but that's been something that we're seeing a little bit of, but they've done a good job of immediately being like, hey, if you hit someone in the head, see you later.
Minimum.
Yeah,
because Rasmus Anderson had that bad hit to Patrick Laine, where he hit him right in the head. That Laine actually had the puck in that one, and he was like skating up the ice, and Anderson kind of just caught him high with a hit. but it's a hit to the head. It's dangerous, and it's 4 games. And if they keep that 4 games minimum, I would like to see any like head contact that's just not a hockey play, egregious, unnecessary, whatever word you want to use. But yeah, I think NHL player safety got this one right. Like you said, Brian, it was easier for him to get out of the way than go out of his way to like shoulder him right in the jaw. Just it was just a dumb play. But right on the player safety, 4 games.
Yeah, I think there needs to be some sort of deterrent, and that's doing a good job as giving a 4-game suspension. And that, like you said, Connor, that should be the minimum. Funny enough, watching a like hardest hit comp the other day, and Brian, your favorite player, Erik Karlsson, was on that play or in that for a hard hit. And I rewatched the replay because they showed the hit, and then it was one of the ones where they actually showed the replay, and was one where the analyst actually said, "Oh wow, that was a very clean hit," where he clearly elbowed him in the head. Karlsson did, whichever player, and the panel that was calling the game said, "Wow." And they're watching the replay and see Karlsson hit this guy in the head and follow through, and went, "Nope, that's a very clean open ice hit." And this was kind of like one of the that was a similar play to this, where Karlsson probably didn't need to hit him, and Karlsson didn't leave his feet either. But just for them to say that it was a clean hit back then, and it was a similar play, and something like this where everyone, and you can see it, everyone's like, "Oh wow, it was clean." This was a play where everyone was like, "Okay, that's not clean." I'm sure they would say it was clean, not good. And a couple years ago, like that one with Karlsson, they would say, "Oh, that's clean. That's not suspensionable because he didn't just go out of his way to hit the guy in the head." It was kind of but I mean, he did, but you guys get what I'm saying.
Yeah. And then before we get to the boatload of Ottawa Senators news,
the Capital.
Listen, it's been a disaster. It still is a disaster, but we're going to get there. There's something important, though, I want to talk about, and this is something that riles people up for whatever reason. But the NHL has reversed their pride tape ban after a single player put it on his stick. And it was Travis Dermott, who played for the Leafs, he's played for the Canucks. He's on a 2-way deal right now worth league minimum, and he was the one to do it. He's got a lot at stake here. Like, if that's the thing, like, and there's people like, "Oh, he's a distraction." I'm like, no, he's doing something that he's done every single year since he's been a pro. Like, he's been one of the biggest allies in the league. And what's interesting too is, first of all, hats off to Travis Dermott. I think it's awesome that he was just like, you know what? I don't care what the league says. I'll do it. I think I also want to give a shout out here to Matt Dumba, who essentially called out the league for being just spineless and that they have no idea what they're doing. And I've heard nothing on that. So I think the league was just like, we're just going to not worry about what's going on right now, because if we try to find either of these guys, we're going to somehow dig ourselves further into a hole. That was, I didn't anticipate Arizona to come out of this as being like the voice of reason, but here we are.
It was funny because when they instituted this ban on pride tape, I kept thinking to myself and saying to people like, okay, so say someone does have pride tape on their stick. What is the NHL going to do? Fine them? Suspend them?
Yeah.
Like, okay, go ahead. Like, Travis Dermott basically called the NHL's bluff and was like, all right, let's see what you're going to do. Oh, you're going to reverse the ban. Yeah, that's what I thought. Like, it was just so they put in this ban. One player on league minimum with a 2-way deal puts like not even pride tape on like the blade of his stick. It's up by the shaft, and it's like 4 little twirls, I don't know, like of pride tape, and the ban is reversed. It's like, well, what are we doing? Like, why is it even there in the first place if you're just gonna back out at the first sign of resistance, you know? But again, good on Travis Dermott for calling the NHL's bluff, and love to see it.
Yeah, it was stupid to begin with. I'm happy we don't have to worry about that anymore. Speaking of stupid, the Ottawa Senators have been doing all sorts of stuff. I'm going to start
your
with
transitions today.
Listen, we're late in the day. I've had enough time to seethe with some sort of, anger or distraught. So we're
as a former Senators fan, I guess that's fair enough.
I mean, I still cheer for the Sens, but it hurts. That's the thing. I can never be accused of being a bandwagon fan because why would I willingly cheer for the Ottawa Senators? If that's the thing,
Fair point.
Yeah.
like I can never be accused of it because I grew up as a Sens fan, so I've stuck around somehow. But yeah, so I'm gonna
Eric
start
Carlson and
first.
Daniel Alfredson. That's what it is.
I've got a Carlson jersey. I'm telling you. But
Yeah.
we're gonna start with the first news that came out, which was I'm gonna start this with we didn't think that the first Shane Pinto news we'd get of the season wouldn't be a contract extension, but it was. He was suspended 41 games for gambling related activities, which by the sounds of it was something to do with his account being flagged and sort of the league really never elaborated on it. They gave like a list of rules that players have to follow, which was essentially don't give your account to other people, don't give people information about games and injuries and stuff like that. So we can assume it's something along those lines. But yeah, he was suspended 41 games. It's the first instance of this in the NHL. And with that is interesting because he still doesn't have a contract technically because the league kind of just said, we don't really know what to do here. So he can serve a suspension, but it's team games, which means it's been going since the start of the season.
Yeah.
Which means game 42, he could technically come back.
Oh, okay. I was actually confused about
Yeah.
that because I read somewhere that he needed to sign, or someone brought up like, oh, does this mean he needs to sign a contract for the 41 games to start counting? But that clarifies it. So thank you.
Yes. From what I understand, as Brian had just said, same too, Connor. I read as soon as that news broke, I believe some reporter tweeted it out. Somebody retweeted it and it popped up on my feed saying, first we're hearing that Pinto has to sign a contract if that's league minimum to serve the suspension. Like even if it was like a league minimum 1-year deal or something just to get going. But then, yeah, news did break soon after. I believe it was probably 10 or 15 minutes after that, saying that the NHL had come out with a statement saying, because this is an issue that happened last season or whenever it was, sorry, I'm going to put the wrong date out there, but because this is a prior issue to this season, the ban started with Ottawa's game number 1. So he had technically, by the time that they had served, by the time they had served his served's not the right word, but given him. There's another word for given him. There's a more professional word. But by the time they had given him his suspension, he had already served 8 games of his suspension before he even knew it. So by him twiddling his thumbs,
maybe before it came public.
That too,
because Shane Pinto, like this whole time, there was the report that he just like left, and it was like, oh, contract talks aren't working out, so he just went home and isn't around the club right now. And it's like, well, if you look back on that totally could have been, you're suspended, we're not making it public yet, go home, get away from team facilities, right? So I think maybe he knew, because apparently this investigation has been happening for a few months, and it's
and Ottawa pulled all contract offers that were on the table. So he's back to square one. So yeah, that'll be an interesting, because that's the thing. When you hit around game 30 of the suspension of the season, then the question once again begs itself: is he going to get signed, or is he just going to sit out for the rest of the year? Because apparently they're waiving the December
the RFA.
If you sign after December whatever, you're not allowed to play. Apparently they're waiving it for that. But yeah, this
is all news to me.
Thanks for filling me in. The NHL.
The way that they presented it was like it was news to them that they're making these rules up on the fly by some random guy off the street. So
yeah, which I don't even know how to segue to this next one. As we're recording this, about probably 3 hours ago, news came down that the Sens were docked a first-round pick in the chaos that happened around the Evgeny Dadonov trade a few years back between Vegas and Anaheim, because Ottawa never provided the no trade team list to the Golden Knights to give to the Ducks. And the fallout of that is Pierre Dorion is no longer the GM of the Ottawa Senators. And
Which
reportedly,
that's been brewing for a while,
front-runner-
but
it has been. But a front runner is none other than Peter Chiarelli, who I have thoughts on, and I will not go into a rant because that would push us probably close to 4.5 hours. But let's just say it's another situation where if they do hire him, you're hiring a guy who has a proven track record of being stupid. And that's all I'm going to say on the matter.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. I mean,
stupid is used too many times today.
I think this is a fireable offense, regardless of what you think is Pierre Dorian as a general manager in the National Hockey League. This is just in a vacuum. It's a fireable offense for this is what general managers are for. This is what you're supposed to do. Is do things like this.
In the job
provide no
description.
trade clause. Yeah, it's in the description.
When you apply for the job, it's like what we expect from you. Don't do this type of thing.
When you apply on
an idiot.
Indeed.
When you apply it.
Yeah.
When you're scrolling through the
It's on the
Indeed
team job
list.
board.
Yeah. No, but the owner, the new owner, if you remember, the Ottawa Senators just sold their team. Michael Andlauer had a presser today, and there are some absolute quotes that really stand out. The one I want to bring up and talk about first from Frank Saravalli's Twitter. Sens owner Michael Andlauer says NHL did not advise him of either investigation, either the botched Dodonov no trade clause or the Pinto sports betting incident before he closed on the purchase. He said, quote, maybe they didn't want to disrupt it to make sure the seller got the best price possible. He's taken some real shots
with Mr. Bettman, I'm assuming.
Yeah. He's taken some real shots at the league. He also had another quote. I'm paraphrasing, so don't take my words literally, but he said something along the lines of, Shane Pinto, the gambling situation. What do you expect a 21-year-old who's hurt with a cell phone to do, especially when you've got Wayne Gretzky promoting BetMGM on the TV or something like that?
Yeah.
Something along those lines. He mentioned the Wayne Gretzky BetMGM thing. So Michael Andlauer had time today, basically, to rip into the NHL. And
there was a quote too from him where he was like, "I don't know why I inherited this." I'm like, oh my god,
yeah, it's like he's regretting his $1 billion purchase after 2 months.
It was something along the lines of, if I had known what I was getting into, I wouldn't have bought the team, which is a very valid statement. I don't blame him for saying any of this. I don't blame him that
they're a disaster.
It's literally the this is gonna be a very niche reference, but season 1 of American Horror Story, they don't tell the buyers of this haunted house what's going on with the house. Well, but it's like that. It's a disaster. It's a disaster.
I saw someone tweet, it's like selling a car and not telling the person who's buying it that the oil hasn't been changed in 4 years and the tires are 10 years old. It's like being like, yeah, they're brand new tires and I just changed the oil yesterday. What? It's a professional sports organization. We might as well just rename this segment to what the NHL did wrong this week, because that's what we're doing now.
Okay, Elliot, I'm going to be honest with you. When you said it's an incredibly niche reference, I thought we were getting a Dakota basketball reference again.
I thought that's what we were going to.
Yeah, I thought we were going there again.
I don't know how you could. They've never done anything that bad. They've never done anything bad, so I don't know how that would relate at all. But
okay, well, I mean, I'm sure there's stuff that we missed, but we're gonna probably start doing an NHL storylines. It won't be that long every week.
I hope not. God.
Well, we'll have a situation where it's what did the Senators do wrong? What's the fallout?
Yeah.
Who did Peter Chiarelli trade for a bag of peanuts 1-for-1?
What did the NHL go back on this week?
Yeah.
It'll literally be Shacked and the Fool when it was 5 weeks in a row, JaVale McGee. That's where we're gonna. Yeah,
that's actually hilarious. Yeah,
that's a great callback.
Yeah. I could go better than that, but we're not gonna do that.
Quick little non-hockey tidbit though to shift out of this, because we're getting off track, and we haven't recorded for an hour in terms of actual content. But we're at over an hour and we're starting to talk about Shacked and a Fool and JaVale McGee.
Yeah.
So I'm going to rein us in here. Some non-hockey news, but Winnipeg sports news to mention. The Gold Eyes have a new manager. Logan Watkins, former major leaguer, played for the Cubs, and more recently, the manager of the Cleveland Railroaders of the American Association has been hired. So that'll be some big news there. Really the first big news out of the offseason from the Fish. Not a whole lot of instant reaction because it's very much a, see what happens as you go along.
Instant
league.
reaction. This is the greatest move in Winnipeg sports history.
To be fair though, I really, really like the move in terms of just getting a guy who is so, familiar with the players. He didn't stop playing. Like he retired from actual playing in 2020. So he's only 3.5. By the time the season starts, he'll be 3.5 years since he stopped playing the game itself. So I think that's important. So welcome to Winnipeg, Logan. We are happy to have you, and can't wait to see you in the red and white.
The only comment I will make, I think you have some reservations, Brian, was because last offseason we were talking about them hiring Greg Taggart, and you thought it was a pretty good idea. But that was also before the season started, and they built their roster, and the season played out. So
I will say this. I think
I'm not trying to call you out, but
no. I think Greg Taggart is a great person. He's a wonderful man, and he is a really good, smart manager. That it just wasn't in terms of the team and the cohesiveness and having things work. It was one of those things where it just didn't happen. And I wish him luck going forward, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Logan can do this year. But back to hockey, just quickly to wrap up the episode here. Let's figure out who we think is good and power rankings of the week. We posted them last week. We were going to do them in the episode, but we ran real long, so we cut it. We're probably running long anyways, but I don't care. I'm the host today. We're gonna do it.
Who's editing this week?
Let's do it.
I've got the outline open here, and I put question mark cut, and I go, no, we're not doing it. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna.
I think we should have an extra longer episode because it's 1 year anniversary. I think that's what we'll draw it up to. But
well, I'll start.
Go ahead.
I'll get things rolling here. I still think Vegas is the number one team in the league. They might be struggling a little bit right now. But what I have done though is I have shifted the Avalanche out of the number 2 spot. And I have Boston there because they're winning games differently, and it's just very annoying how they play. So I think that's something to keep in mind. Like
Charlie McAvoy, they're going out of their way to be annoying.
I would say there's the difference between being annoying and being stupid. So,
but I mean, it's people.
We did a stupid counter this episode because I've said.
I know. I was about to say. I just
said that 2 minutes ago.
Video,
we've said too much.
I'm editing the video, so I might actually do that
in the corner.
We'll see.
Yeah,
I might honestly. That might be fun. My number 3, I'm gonna put Colorado. Down to the 3 spot. They're still Colorado. They're doing their thing. I'm going to put Dallas in my 4. They haven't played as many games as anyone else, but they've lost 1 regulation game so far. They're still looking fairly solid. And sneaking in as my number 5 team, the Vancouver Canucks.
Ooh.
They're fun.
Okay.
They seem to have some sort of thing going for them right now. That being said, their management might be, pushing it a little because apparently they're actively working the phones to try and reward the players. Let's have some long-term vision here, folks. You're 1 year removed from being a lottery contender mid-season, then going on a run once Rick Tocchet came in that dropped you out of lottery ranking. You're 1 year removed from that. Let's not try and trade away assets this quickly.
Not to mention they started the season with Connor Garland on the trade block. And then as soon as he and Pedersen decided to mesh together, right? It's, nope, he's not for sale anymore. Like what are we doing? Why? But they're playing well. So
yeah. All right, Connor, I'll go to you.
All right. Like you said, Vegas still hasn't lost in regulation, so they're the number 1 team. Another team that hasn't lost in regulation, Boston. So our 1 and 2 are exactly the same. Because Boston, I mean, they lost Bergeron and Krejci, and they're 8-0-1. Like, it's It's stupid. Put that on the stupid counter. There we go. Number 3, I'm keeping the Colorado Avalanche. I think they've looked great. They got shut out against the Sabres on like a matinee on a Sunday. I don't
a good
really
game.
put. Yeah, I don't really put
hockey
much
hours.
stock. Yeah, I don't really put much stock into weird games like that. Whatever, they lost a
You
weird
put
game.
stock into a matinee.
A matinee on a Sunday? No. Everyone's watching the Broncos and the Bills. No one's watching Avs Sabres.
I wouldn't watch Broncos Bills. Both of those are. I would rather
Broncos
watch.
country. Let's ride.
Oh goodness.
No, I
Oh,
would
my
much rather. I'm sorry, I'd much rather watch the hockey game because I know the Broncos are going to put up 6 points and the Bills are going to run it up to 45. The Avs and
They didn't
Sabres
play
sounds like a way
each
better
other, I'm just
matchup,
saying.
but
They didn't play each other. I'm just saying those fan bases are watching their football teams. I can tell you that. Number 4, I'm putting the New York Rangers, who are arguably, well, I guess other teams haven't lost in regulation yet, but they're one of the hottest teams in the league. They just beat the Jets. We saw it firsthand. They're 7-2-0, 14 points, third highest in the league. And I'm at 1, 2, 3, 4 in my 5 spot. Not going Vancouver. I had Detroit last week. I have some reservations now. I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Kings, who just last night beat the Toronto Maple Leafs on the road. They, I believe, are the highest scoring team in the NHL right now, and they've got Pierre-Luc Dubois and Kevin Fiala on their third line. So this team is deep, and if Cam Talbot can give them any sense of like goaltending, they
stop
are
the puck.
the team
Once.
to beat.
Yeah.
They are one of the teams to beat in the West.
Second highest scoring
But
to
Detroit has
Red
played.
Wings.
Detroit has played one more game.
Fair enough.
Yes. So the highest scoring team on a goals per game basis, the Los Angeles Kings, coming in at number 5 on my rankings. Elliot.
Here we go.
Well, I'm going to make this really simple. My top 4 is the same as Brian's, and the Rangers are at my 5. That's literally it. This sounds
Elliot's got a bus
bad.
to catch. He's got to go.
No, it's literally it's because not that I'm copying you, Brian, but it's because I don't watch enough of the other teams around the league that I kind of just get a sense from everybody else, and I kind of take that and go, okay, this is what I think, and it's probably completely wrong with no analysis. It's just like it's literally just I take this from here and hear from there and hear this on TV and watch this, read this article or whatever and go, okay, this is what I have. And I just throw it all into a pot, mix it together, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 comes out. And that's what I'm sticking to.
Fair enough.
And just because I've got the standings open here, there's a beautiful thing about how we talk about the Jets being stuck in the middle all the time. They are sitting at a perfect number 16 in the league right now.
There you go. Mushy middle.
So right on brand.
Hey, fuel the mediocrity.
Wow, we're ending off real great.
Yeah.
Sorry, I also phrased that wrong. It's fueled by mediocrity, not fuel. Fueled.
God, we're gonna wrap it there.
Yeah.
On a low note.
Yeah, with Connor at Portage and Donald.
Yeah.
Just in front of the.
Still here. Cold, freezing, but
I am
don't-
so much
I don't
brighter
see
than
any
I was
snow.
to start, I'm realizing now. If you're watching on YouTube, you've been able to see the sun escape the windows here. And now
Yeah.
I am whiter than I've ever been. So
That's
we're
a
gonna wrap it there
statement.
before it gets too dark. And we will we'll finish up the episode. Jets play, well, when you listen to it, they'll be playing tonight against Vegas at 9 p.m. Then they're gonna be in Mullet Arena in
matinee.
in Tucson, Arizona, to
Just a great
the
place to
3
play.
p.m. start on the Saturday. And then you've got them visiting St. Louis on the Tuesday, so we'll probably record after that. So we'll be back for the Predators Jets divisional mashup coming up on the Thursday next week. So a lot to talk about. We're gonna probably have a decent amount to say about whatever happens against the Golden Knights, and then figure out the rest after that, because
Yeah.
I'm kind of a wild card going forward here.
According to Cole Perfetti, they're going to be playing in the worst arena in the league this week. So we'll see how that goes.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
All
And
right.
then when we come back next week, just lastly, when we come back next week, that Predators game is the first of a 5-game homestand for the Jets. So we will be previewing that.
Also, not
Absolutely.
according to the Winnipeg Jets, their biggest rivalry. Apparently, that's the Dallas Stars. But that's all I'll say on that.
I don't know, but
I don't think it's either of those teams, but I digress.
it's so clearly Edmonton. So clearly Edmonton. Like even dating back to the 1.0 days, it's so obviously Edmonton. I don't know how you can say anyone but Edmonton. Anyways, get out of here.
Are we gonna have a debate at some point about which the Jets' biggest rivalry is?
It's so obviously Edmonton.
Wave the white flag.
It's so obviously Edmonton.
What else? Are we gonna say the Minnesota Wild or what? Like, are we just gonna
Nashville,
keep going here?
Nashville,
I mean,
Nashville because they played
Minnesota's
one
a bigger
series
rival
against
than Nashville. That's the thing. At least with
them.
Minnesota, you've
that's
got
a
like
joke.
you got the fighting, you got the physical matchups, you got that. I would.
I
say
wasn't
both
saying that
Edmonton
I
and
was.
Calgary are a bigger rival than the others.
I'm not trying to say that I was agreeing that the Preds were, and I was just saying that I don't think Dallas is, but I just can't believe that the Jets like to say that Dallas is their biggest rival. But I think that's because they've been battling with them for the last division spot for the last little bit. But no, we're not going to get into it. I'm not even gonna. We're not going to go there. We can save that for another episode. If you guys want to hear that or hear us talk about that, then you guys have to ask for it in the comments. So, but we won't go there unless we need to.
If we go there anymore, I'm going to cut it.
Yeah, let's get out of here.
Okay, so we're going to be back next week for 1 year and 1 episode. So we're going to start the new year next week, and what a great year it'll be. We will see you next week from Connor and Elliot. I'm Brian. Thanks again for listening to our 1 year anniversary. Thanks again for everything over the past year, and we will see you next week. Peace.
See you.
Go Jets. Okay.